one word, how would you sum up your feelings about Daytona, the whole Daytona experience so far?
Expensive. Does that not qualify?
And it's a celebratory day as well for another small, tight-knit team. Magnus Racing.
Magnus brings it home in the Audi, winning here.
Porsche goes to victory lane. They win the Rolex 24 at Daytona. They win at the Brickyard as well.
Oh, big wreck. That's the championship leader. That's the 40 car.
Magnus Racing dominates the GT class at the Rolex 24 at Daytona.
Craig Stanton. He is part myth, part legend, and all badass. While most people his age join AARP or start lawn bowling, Craig Stanton is still going wheel to wheel with the best in the business. What's his secret to staying young? Craig Stanton's Touch of Craig. No one brings youth and exuberance together with old age and wisdom like Craig Stanton. So why not have Craig's fluid all over your hair too? Craig Stanton's Touch of Craig.
My interest in car racing doesn't come from some experience, background, or even childhood memory. My interest comes from an appreciation of cars. And I always tell people there's two ways to appreciate anything, especially cars. You can collect them or you can use them. And I think car racing is the car version of using the car well.
I met John Potter when I was working for another team in 2007, I believe it was. When I first met John, it was clear that he wasn't your normal cookie-cut driver.
It was interesting because he liked to wear the same shirt every day. And I'm not talking just the same style of shirt, it was the same shirt every day.
I started with Skip Barber Race School and then the Skip Barber Race Series, which is a great way to get into car racing. I also, at the similar time, started doing club racing and learned a lot of stuff, built a race car with some help. That was sort of my entree into sports cars too, since most the club racing is of a sports car variety.
2007, I think we did one race or two. 2008, a partial season. And in 2009, we did a full season with another team.
After spending a few years driving for other teams, we started to realize that as I was meeting people in the racing world and learning more about it myself, that the next evolution of what I was doing on the club side, of doing it on my own, so to speak, was to take that and see if we could do it on my own with assembling a great group of people at the professional level.
Wise man once said, if you just want to win a prize, why not just run 100 meters? But if you want the experience of a lifetime, you run a marathon. Speed is proud to welcome you to the 48th annual Rolex 24 at Daytona.
I was with Font Barker Lowes, and that ended rather abruptly at the end of 2009.
See American Greed.
Then I was free to look for other work.
When we hired him, I remember the thought in my head at the time was, we have a chance to win now.
This is on board multi-time series champion Craig Stanton and one of the new teams in Rolex GT competition, Magnus Racing.
My first real big race in the States was with Magnus Racing, and that's where I started my US career.
They got some very, very good drivers in this car. Jeroen Bleekemolen, two-time and defending Porsche Super Cup champion.
We thought we had done everything right, and lap 3 we lose the back glass out of the car. That went downhill from there.
There goes the window.
I came in with a strange amount of confidence, and maybe in hindsight more confidence than we should have had. That being said, I think for a first race ever to finish 5th in a 24 was a pretty good result.
And it's state now, do you expect it to hold up for the duration?
Well, we should. We've been putting more and more tape on every time we stop. I think we're going to run out of tape before we run out of windows, so we'll see what happens, but it should be good.
I really like this guy. Some new blood to the. You can tell he's a character. There's no question about it.
Let's work out what went down.
Collision here. The line away from it. John Pugh was coming down.
In 2010 and 11, we had a pretty good season as a rollout team. Pretty good seasons. We had some podiums.
And also a thrilling drive here for Craig Stanton and John Potter in the 44 Magnus Racing Porsche. And there'll be some delighted people if positions stay as is. 2 minutes to go.
In the GT Challenge category, see the 68, the blue car on the left, the 77 Magnus Racing Porsche on the right. Craig Stanton behind the wheel of the green and white Porsche, and it is a drag race down to turn 9.
And they're so close, they touch wheels.
Oh, man. Big hit. That is a huge one.
Our first 2 years, we did have high expectations that weren't quite met, but yeah, in hindsight, I think we did an excellent job. So my new co-driver this year, Andy Lally, as everybody knows, he's one of the best sports car drivers around.
For 2012, I'm with John Potter. We're going to run the full Grand Am Rolex Series schedule.
He took a year off of sports cars to do a NASCAR Sprint Cup, but we managed to steal him back.
I'm pretty psyched to be back in a Porsche here this year. We've got a good group of guys.
Andy Lally does come from a great pedigree, but so do horses, and in the end, they still end up in the glue factory. I've known Andy Lally for several years before he started driving at Magnus Racing. We drove together with another team, and when an opportunity came up to drive together, it was something that I didn't want to pass up, and parts all sort of fell together at the end of the 2011 season.
Live from Daytona International Speedway, a huge field of national and international racing superstars have gathered to compete in one of the most unique and demanding challenges in this milestone 50th anniversary edition of the Rolex 24.
The GT class in the 2012 Daytona 24-hour was the most highly subscribed class in 24-hour history.
I got Andy in the seat, and I had worked with Andy for a long time, and we'd won a championship together, so I knew it was going to be a solid setup.
And this is for the lead in class. Mark Lead has it with 59. Andy Lally in the 44 wants it.
Boy, that Andy's ferocious when he gets behind the wheel, isn't he? I mean, he just really drives the bejesus out of these things.
It was for sure a tough race, but we also lucked out in being the team that had been with Porsche consistently for a few years, and we had some pull with them, and we landed Rene Rast.
Rene Rast is one of the Porsche superstars in this field. We have got a vast number of either Porsche Super Cup champions or Porsche Carrera Cup Germany champions, of which he is one.
Even though we were doing well, we were leading many laps at many points in the race, there's always that sense of nervousness. I'm a pessimist almost to the end. But I could tell that I probably had some optimism the last 2 hours, let's say, because those were incredibly emotionally difficult.
And John Potter's men have done it. Andy Lally's going to get another watch. Magnus Racing dominates the GT class at the Rolex 24 at Daytona.
It's our first win in Rolex Series, and I just really have to hand it to all these people you see behind me here who put this car together. 4 of us just get to abuse it for 24 hours. They had to spend months putting all the work so that we could abuse it. So it's just an amazing thing, and I don't know. I never, imagined it, so I don't even know what to say when I'm here.
It's a little surreal to win it the first time. You just don't think it's going to happen, but it was a good win. It was a really good win.
When we finally crossed the finish line and won that race and realized that that was the first win for Magnus Racing and that we had just won the biggest class in history for the 24 on the 50th, it was elation.
Winning the 2012 50th 24-hour was very personal to me. It was, like I said, it feels like this is our team. We started together from nothing. 2 years in, we're winning one of the biggest sports car races in the world. It was probably one of the highlights of my racing career.
We had been fighting some electrical gremlins that entire weekend for the 6 hour.
The first half lap, there was smoke reported from the cockpit. And initially everybody was kind of does that hold your breath, the car might be on fire, but you're really wishing it's not.
I radioed in, and the only advice I could get was to start turning off accessory features, turn off the helmet blower, turn off some lights, whatever we could. Unfortunately, coming around the outer loop in Watkins Glen, I realized that the smoke had turned to fire, and it wasn't going to make it back. I looked around and there's nobody there to put the car out. I look back in the car and the little flames have turned into big flames and there's still nobody standing there. I run over to one of the fire bottle guys and try to get him to go back and put out the car. He says to me, he's like, "Are you on fire?" And I say, "No, I'm fine, but my car's burning." And he's like, "Oh, I can't help." So I tried to grab his fire extinguisher to go put out the car, and he pulled it back from me and wouldn't let me do it. So yeah, so our car slowly burned, watched our season go up in flames, and
And it's a 3-hour event at the Brickyard here today. So the clock is running, and that's all important because this is a time-certain event.
We had such misfortune coming into that race. We had a brand new car because it had just burned down to the ground, and we were rebuilding and trying to figure things out, but everybody started fresh at Indy because we'd never raced there before.
From the burning of the car at the 6 hour to the inaugural race at Indianapolis, we literally had 6 days to retub and rebuild the car.
This is a new chassis that's underneath this 44 skin here this weekend, burnt it to the ground almost at Watkins Glen, so it hasn't been a happy time in recent weeks.
It's one of the craziest races I've ever been to as far as rain goes. We might have done something like 7 tire changes. And it was rains, dries, back to rains, back to dries.
And whoever wins out of these top 3 cars right here, if one of those 3 cars takes it to victory lane, they will also win the North American Endurance Championship on top of that.
John did a phenomenal job, literally one of his best stints of his entire career in a wet, dry track back and forth to really cut through the field. And when he pitted, he gave me the car in the top 3 in an amazing spot.
Well done to Magnus Racing as well. Porsche goes to victory lane. They win the Rolex 24 at Daytona. They win at the Brickyard as well. Magical stuff for Magnus.
Even though I don't come from a racing family or I didn't grow up going to many car races, everybody, including myself, has an appreciation for the 100+ year of history at Indy.
We all went out there and did the picture in front of the bricks and kissed the bricks, and it was a little unsanitary but super cool.
Winning that as an inaugural race, it's probably one of the high points of my career.
After our 2012 season, we headed into 2013 with some pretty good optimism. We could tell our expectations were higher when we had a top 5 finish at Daytona, which is always good for points, but we were all left Daytona feeling disappointed, and the only people that feel disappointed with the top 5 at Daytona are people that had won the previous year.
2013 was our year, I think, to win a championship. We were on podium probably almost every weekend. We had one win at Laguna.
Fist out the window, and why not? Andy Lally picks up the win with John Potter and takes the points lead in the GT Championship.
What a time to get that first victory.
You're not kidding.
2013, Magnus Racing was in the fight for the championship. We had just come off a win at Laguna Seca, and we were going into the season finale.
Welcome you to the final round of the 2013 season.
So we could finish 2 spots behind the Ferrari and still win the championship.
In the GT points, it's Andy Lally and John Potter in their Porsche that hold a slim 4-point lead over Alessandro Balzan's Ferrari.
With the kind of season we've been having, that seemed like a very achievable result.
Looking for green, it waves, and we are racing at Lime Rock Park.
Unfortunately, the race didn't go that way.
Big wreck. That's the championship leader. That's the
Andy
44
Lally's
car. John Potter has been clouded.
When the accident happened, and I looked up at the monitor and I saw it get T-boned and the parts go all over the place, there was this denial.
Even driving back, watching just the white line, through the tiny gap I could see, the white line on the left side of Lime Rock, I still thinking maybe something will happen. Maybe we can do something.
John Potter walking back to his trailer. His championship has slipped away. And there, underneath the bridge, it says Samposi Strait. The number 44 Magnus Racing Porsche is back out, and that could put him back in the championship, Calvin.
Our goal at that point was to score minimum drive time, so we'd still get credit for last place in the race.
The car was actually fast enough to keep the next competitor off us for the last half hour of the race, which was pretty incredible. That's why I never took it seriously after that when Andy said the car was bad. And it doesn't matter, you can drive it anyway.
It's Magnus and it's live. Kinda.
So I gotta stop you. Hey, Marco. I'm from Germany. What this is all about?
My very first day at Magnus Racing, I think it was at Sebring, and I had a very warm welcome, but then there was a media guy who took me over to the infield paddock, to the fan side, and he had a script.
I just thought, how did we lose the war?
When I thought, man, they are weird, what they are doing there, and it was really a great time.
We had optimism in 2014. We had a few new changes. We had a new car. We were still running Porsche, but it was a brand new design. And they did this because it came with a brand new series, no longer Grand Am. It was the Tudor Championship at the time. And a new co-driver for some of our races in Marco Seifert. So we had optimism from the past, but a few new variables.
Battle for second in GTD, the 63 of Alessandro Balzan and Marco Seifert in the number 44 Magnus Racing Porsche.
At that time I didn't realize that we are really about having a chance to win the race, but when the night came and it all cleared out a bit with the traffic and the crazy ones were gone, and we were consistently picking up, and then it was at the first time we thought about we can make it.
Andy Lally crosses, leading the GT Daytona class as the fireworks explode overhead.
You know, I've done Sebring, 17 times. That's the only time I've ever won.
sum up 2014 by saying that we had highs and lows.
Fell off the car in front of me and he jerked left on the banking there. Well, he either ran over something or whatever, but we hit something pretty good just sitting in the middle of the banking there. Awesome. Not huge, but enough that I actually felt it on the nose this year. Okay, we'll take a look when you come by next time and see what it looks like.
My first year, 2015, was a unique getting to know everyone experience.
One of the favorites in the class, and Andy, you and I spoke last night, the team was having some transmission issues at that point in time, but now you're back in the garage. What put you guys out of this race?
We had a ton of problems through the whole race. Transmission lines, transmission problems, shifting problems. And we see the car start smoking on track. And my first thought is, thank God, it's finally blowing up, we're done.
We just ended up shutting her down with an oil leak, and as we opened up the front hood, the Viper clipped the possum, and it came through the front end of my car, ripped through the tub, ripped through the rivets, and ended up in our trunk.
Bent the radiator 45 degrees, but somehow didn't affect the overall performance of the car. So we just kept going for 4 hours while the poor little guy bounced around in there. My first race, my first real work I had to do was to remove a dead carcass out of the car that had been riding around for 4 hours.
Then went to Sebring, and unfortunately, due to a judgment error on my part, we had some car contact that resulted in suspension failures.
Let's take a look at some video. This is the first time we're seeing. See that number 49, AF Corsa GTD Ferrari. Potter comes up and makes contact with the left rear pretty hard.
And that's where he obviously cut the tire. And as he came out of turn 16, it sucked him, dragged him, pulled him across the track. Boom, and there was nothing he can do. And look at his hands on his head. He knows that it was probably something to do with him.
The rest of the races, we certainly scattered some podiums and had some limited success, but we never really contended for either the NAC or the full season championship. So 2015 wasn't exactly our ideal year. So we decided to take the whole thing apart, piece by piece, and really see what we could do to make this year better.
Ah! Put it back!
Now that we've put it all back together, well, something about this team just feels a little different.
We are green at Daytona. The Rolex 24 is underway.
2016 was a new chapter for Magnus Racing. We were switching from Porsche to Audi, and as soon as we got in that car in winter testing, I was really happy with it. It's very rare that you get in something so different from a Porsche to an Audi and in 5 laps be like, this is home, this is good.
In kind of a strike of luck, Rene Rast, who won with us in 2012, is now a Audi driver, so we have him as an Audi driver in the car. And again, a rollout of a new program, basically.
Now let's take a look at GT Daytona, and few better, as I said, in the Audi Cal than Rene Rast. However, hounding him and closing in just a little bit, just a few seconds back, a guy named Patrick Long for Black Swan Racing.
The first 3 quarters of the race was just about driving smooth and fast and keeping the car preserved for the end.
I'll tell you what, he's trying to bring it home, but they may have some fuel issues here. He just turned a 153.7, Babini a 147.7, and they just trimmed almost 6 seconds out of that 32-second lead.
We found ourselves in a situation at the end where we had a chance, and we had Rene in the car, and it was a matter of either taking fuel and going as fast as we could, or saving fuel. And since we didn't have the fastest car, we elected to try and run a fuel strategy stint at the end.
Yes, that's more like it. More of that, more of that. What happens if we get a yellow? And you can go. But I don't see any yellows out there.
We had to jump ahead of people with strategy, and then fuel was the way to do that. It was the most fuel savings we'd ever done.
I have to say, I don't know how Lars did it, because he had 10 Audi engineers yelling at him, how much fuel, we're not going to make it, we're not going to make it. He's calculating.
Let the Lambo pass.
I don't know if you ever heard Andy up on the timing saying Andy's.
If he was doing his job right, I wouldn't have had to f***ing be on there telling him what to do.
As we watch Rast trying to milk it to bring it home here in front of Nick Katzberg. They might have done this here. He had a 6.6 second margin at the line. Boy, he is just absolutely easy. An incredible job. And in GT Daytona, Magnus brings it home in the Audi, winning here at the Rolex 24.
Rene ran out of fuel on the in-lap after the checker flag. He did not even make it back. And actually the most embarrassing thing in the race is we were all so excited that we all forgot to tell Rene that he won the race.
'Andy Lally, one of the best in the business. Right there, that number 44, what he's trying to do is get by the next 3 cars in class, get on that lead lap.
For that year, we had a number of podiums. We certainly were finding some success and had a competitive car.
And for GT Daytona, what a story. After the big crash in Canada, a win for Audi and Magnus Racing at Lime Rock. Andy Lally loves winning here.
In 2017, we went to Pirelli World Challenge, ran a 2-car team for the first time, which was a neat experience.
The 2017 season turned out to be a pretty good season. We ended up with 1 win, a bunch of podiums. Car was always competitive, and I thought we had a pretty good showing.
We had a season of mixed results, but it was still had some podiums scattered throughout in both cars, including a race win at Lime Rock Park. I finished second in the championship. I enjoyed the sprint racing they don't do anymore. Like, it wasn't a forgotten year. The most forgotten year we've had would be 2018.
Flexbox.
What do I think about the Magnus humor?
I don't know how this came about, but it seems like every picture there is of me, I have a bottle of something in my hand.
Wait a second. Aren't we on track right now?
Yeah. Yeah, par for course. I like a drink as much as anybody.
Magnus Racing, I'm Lars Giersing.
When we get to Daytona, it's always a surprise to see what, we never see the poster or the video first. We're as surprised as the fans are.
Okay, no, look behind you. Look behind you. No, don't do it yet. Look behind you.
We shoot little bits here and there and out of, you have no idea what's really going on.
One of the highlights of my life is being in a brick figure movie. Hey! I got to brag to my nephews. They actually realized what I was doing.
My favorite piece that Magnus has done in 2014, Magnus Racing did a Rediscover sports car video, which really, I think, took the whole garage, really touched base with them, how it really made a lot of people feel, I mean, it should have been like a flagship commercial for IMSA.
That's Utah's McDreamy?
Yeah.
Car's okay.
I like the hero cards. The Magnus hero cards are the best. We have no idea until they're released when everyone else sees them. You know, we hate that we don't know, but it's also a big thrill and a surprise when we finally get to see it.
Starting off just as a driver for other teams, it always was funny to me how serious everybody takes what they're doing here. Yes, you should take it seriously. There's big dollars, there's lives on the line, there's serious commitments, and we're all committed to winning. But I think if there's one message that I'd hope we've sent over the past 10 years, it's that we can compete and we can excel, and we can have a good time and enjoy this difficult and competitive environment that we exist in.
They are the ones with the best humor, and they're always good for a new surprise.
And I still thank them and owe them big time.
Well, it's my third race with Magnus now. They seem pretty cool.
It's been great. You know, if it wasn't for him, I probably wouldn't be here.
To put your own touch onto something traditional and make it your own, I think that will be the biggest legacy of Magnus Racing.
Un equipo gracioso y un equipo bien sociable.
Having a little more personality.
Having been able to put a team together where we could win Daytona twice, Sebring once, and been on many, many podiums. I can't even remember how many. I think that's what I want to remember.
Just keeps all the priorities in the right spot.
So we're clear. They're not very unique press releases. They're unique press releases. Very unique can't be very. Unique means one of a kind. So either it is or it isn't.
In my racing career, my biggest wins have come with Magnus Racing, with John Potter. John has given me an opportunity to grow and to achieve things that I might not have achieved with other teams.
When we were starting Magnus Racing in 2009, I don't think I thought 10 years ahead. I certainly hope that I've put the best possible stamp on the racing world and the racing history as any single person can do with the tools I have available. And I think that whenever I do leave car racing, I hope that left it a little bit better off than when we got here.